Hey guys, I'm here with pro angler Italo, and he's going to show us how to properly clean your catch.
Here's a great tip when it comes to filleting fish. Whether you're filleting a walleye, other game fish, or even panfish, really what you need is a sharp knife, and it helps to have a flat surface so that you can clean your fish on properly. Let me show you. The first thing I'm going to do is just make an incision behind the gill plate. I'm going to slide the knife down at an angle, but I don't want to go into the body cavity. The next thing I'm going to do is take my knife, and I'm actually going to face it upwards, and I'm going to run it along the vertebrae just to separate the skin from the body. Now what I'm going to do is just gently raise the fish and start separating the fillet from the head all the way back to the tail. Next, what I'm going to do is run the blade down. Now when you get to the end of the fillet, you can actually place the knife right across along the vertebrae at the end of the rib cage and then just separate the whole fillet. That's done. Now I'm going to work my way back up along the rib cage, and I'm going to actually lift the fillet. I'm going to continue to do that and separate it at the front until I get it all the way down to the belly. Now that I've got it close to the belly, I'm going to separate the fillet from the carcass. So I'm going to cut with the knife very gently, and it's off. So there's the fillet. You can see we have a nice fillet. There's no bones from the rib cage. We're going to place that aside. And what I'm going to do is flip the fish over, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to insert the knife in, and I'm going to slide it down just enough to go to the rib cage. I'm going to invert the knife towards me, and I'm going to again separate the fillet along the back. And now I'm going to separate the fillet from the actual vertebrae. When I get down past to where the rib cage end, I'm going to insert the knife right through and then separate the entire fillet off the actual body. And now I'm going to work the fillet at the rib cage and separate it without breaking through, so I keep things nice and tidy until the whole fillet is almost ready to be cut off. And I'm going to separate it and cut it right along the belly. There's my second fillet. Now, what I'm going to do next is actually take the cheek, and I'm going to remove it because the cheeks on fish, especially like walleye, are very good eating. They're much like the texture of scallops. Now, one of the things that you want to do when you're doing the cheek is use the tip of the knife. This is where it's important that you have a little bit of a sharp point, and I'm going to insert it and literally go along that cheek and remove it out. Now you can see that the cheek is attached to that membrane of skin. By just pulling it off, it'll come right off. So there's one cheek. It's about the size of a quarter. I'm going to flip that over and do the other side. So what I'm going to do now is again insert the knife just along the cheek very carefully. And now I'm going to go underneath and take that little medallion off. And it should peel right off. If I go like so, there's the other medallion that's there. Now, the last thing that I'm going to do before I totally clean the fillets, I want to save the throat meat that's on this walleye, because it's the same as the cheeks. To do that, I'm going to run the knife right along the cleithrum, and I'm going to run it with the blade up, because I just want to separate the skin from the actual flesh, and I'm going to go all the way to the pelvic fins. Now, the next step is a little tricky. I'm going to insert the knife at the front, and I'm going to lift the skin. Now, I'm going to use the knife to actually hold the skin, and I'm going to peel the skin back all the way to those pelvic fins and tear it off like a banana. Now I'm going to cut that piece of medallion out. You can see what a nice piece of flesh is there. Most people will discard this with the carcass, but it's actually a lot of good meat. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take the fillets. So here's the first fillet, and I'm going to take the skin off the fillet. So I'm going to do that by putting the knife at an angle and sliding it starting from the tail all the way down and separating the flesh from the skin. Now, because I'm going to be transporting these fish, I'm actually going to leave a little bit of skin, about 2 inches, just tagged on, so that in case I get stopped by a conservation officer, they can see how long the fish was and they can identify what the fish was. So I'm going to cut that skin right there for the ID, and there's the fillet. And I'm going to put that fillet on the side. Let me just grab the second fillet, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start at the tail with the angle knife, and I'm going to work it all the way down. This is where you try to go as close to the skin as possible so that you don't waste any meat. Just before I'm done taking the skin off, I'm also going to leave a section of skin there. So you can see the 2 fillets that have the actual skin on them. They're not totally boneless. So this is the fun part. I'm actually going to zipper these fillets. So let me take one fillet and show you. I'm going to lay it down, and what I'm going to do is notch right at the tail, I'm going to make a little V-notch, which is on either side of the lateral line. Now what I'm going to do is literally take one side of the fillet and I'm going to pull it. That's why it's called a zipper. So you can see I'm going to pull it in more, and I've got one piece of fillet, and that's boneless. Now I'm going to take the actual zipper part, which has the bones, and I'm going to also separate that. So I'm very gently pulling on it, and there's the actual strip of the little bones. So that's going to be discarded. So what you have now is two pieces from one fillet, which is totally boneless. I'm going to be doing that with the second fillet, and that's one way to ensure that your guests won't get any bones in their mouth. So this is the easiest way to fillet a fish, to make sure that it's boneless without making a mess.